Welcome to Team Left Jab Midnight. Brought to you by the Team Left Jab United Radio Network. Uncensored, unfiltered, unforgiving radio that doesn't bow down to political correctness. We're counterculture, in your face, and do what we want. Whether it's sports, comedy, radio, wrestling, nothing is off the table when the clock strikes midnight every Sunday night on Team Left Jab. Here's your host, Sam Nemo.
After a week off, Team Left Jab Midnight is back with a great lineup this week. First up, we have great friend of the show, Tony Myers, a.k.a. FMW Leather, Chainsaw Tony, talking everything from what he's been up to lately to the latest in wrestling. Then we have Matt O'Leary talking some Mets and MLB talk. Follow that up with Mike Scudero talking some Yankees, and he's not happy with the way they've been playing. Then we have our favorite weatherman, comedy guy, Frankie McDonald, in his weekly spot, as usual. And finally, we finished up with Rob from the Rob and Slim Show, who's going to preview Season 7, which will start this coming Wednesday at 5:30 Eastern on IPM Nation, as well as Facebook Live. The legend himself, Tony Myers, a.k.a. Chainsaw Tony, FMW Leather. Hey, what's up, Tony?
Hey, what's going on, man? How you been?
Not too bad. How about you?
All right, your ringtone is the actual theme from the Twilight Zone, so.
You're still watching that, huh, Tony? I love that show. I catch it in the middle of the night a lot on like Wi-Fi channel over here in New York. I'm sure you're watching it on similar channels over there in New Jersey.
No, actually what I did was I took the liberty of, like, getting all my old DVDs together and then making, like, files of them. Yeah, and then I made, like, separate files for each one of them. And then I put it on my laptop, so every single night I'm falling asleep watching another one, going back, trying to, like, look for the little things I didn't notice the first time around. And, you know, these are the ones that aired as is. So it's like we're at the end of it, Rod Sterling is, like, tells you about the next week, and then he does, like, sometimes he does commercials, but he's always smoking a cigarette. Which is how
he loves a cigarette. Yeah, so you watch the episodes, we watch the episodes on TV, they cut a few minutes, everything, they cut a few minutes out, for commercial time, so when you watch, like, the couple of scenes in there that none of us have seen, unless they've seen it on DVD or something.
Yeah, and I wanted to see them as they aired as is, because I wanted to see, like, just what they would do as far as, like, next week's episode, I just had to see it as is. I was just fascinated with it. And I knew that Rod Serling had the world of trouble with that network anyway. For 5 years, it was a constant battle for him. Just standards, procedures, things that they dictated to him, certain people they wanted in there, certain politics of don't use that guy. His name is now Mud in Hollywood. And he went through a whole entire damn near nervous breakdown of, he said it's what led him to smoking like 3-4 packs of cigarettes a day, and by the time he hit like 50, I mean, he had no lung capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably had emphysema and everything. Did you ever? What was the other show that he did? Dark.
That was kind of like
he hosted.
Yeah, that was kind of like a cast off of what he did. Because like after that, he had trouble finding, the same success because nobody was going to give him the push, no matter what network, what idea he went with. Nobody was going to green light him the way that, that he was green lighted to begin with. Because by then it had been around town that, the guy's hard to work with. He's a real pain in the ass. He's very in your face. If he had an issue with the network, at first he said that. At first with the network, he didn't want to argue with them. He didn't want to put up a fight. He was just so thankful to be there making good money. But then it eventually was like, now you're stifling my artistic merit. So, and it was just like a constant battle for him, constantly. To me, that's the only thing that held that series back from probably being the greatest thing that's ever aired on TV.
It's considered a true classic, and, just the amount of episodes that they did, and every episode has a
Probably so. The thing I didn't like about some of the, like, things of, and I thought about going by, like, one by one and doing, like, reviews or maybe even doing, like, audio commentary with just tidbits and notes. But I tend to go with the mainstream ones that everybody goes with. And I'm like, nah, it would be better if I found the obscure ones, like the ones that people don't really talk about. But, I mean, as many times as Burgess Meredith was recurring, and that's the cool thing is that you see in the original airing, he breaks the fourth wall and he's like, next week, Burgess Meredith returns as Aaron William.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
played all different roles, the same character. Yeah.
For some reason, you're kind of breaking up, but also it just like my phone just flashed that you were on my other line. So I don't know what that's all about, but
the Twilight Zone and how Burgess Meredith and some of these classic characters. I mean, classic actors did different characters, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, and it's so cool because, he never broke character when he was doing the introduction to every single episode. But it looks so weird when he's like, next week's episode, Burgess Meredith returns. And like another completely different character. And you're like, oh, okay. It's still almost hard to believe that weaselly little guy was the voice of old weathered Mickey. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it just shows the range that Burgess Meredith as an actor had because, he was in quite a few. So,
oh yeah,
got to see him in his younger years and that kind of thing. But what a career he had in Hollywood, my God.
Yeah, and the one thing I would say about the Twilight Zone that I've always thought about is that as many great episodes as they had, they did have their duds, I thought. And I can't name them to you now. I would have to get the whole list out, but some of them were boring. I mean, maybe because I'm not really a Civil War buff or anything, but some of those Civil War ones were just, man, it was just...
Yeah, I was going to say...
follow and boring and just all talk and, couldn't really do it for me.
Yeah, and it almost was like too much dialogue, it was just too much... All dialogue. Yeah, and there was nothing really happening, and you're like, man, how many times can we see the same shot? And it's just like...
Right.
Real kind of low budget, that, and like his agenda. I think the last time I was on your show, I pointed out how some of his agenda and some of his political views would leak out. It was like last time I compared it to like Spike Lee and how it's like
I remember that, yeah.
real militant views on things, and people don't want to have that crammed down their throat,
Right. He was funny because even props he reused, like the dummy. He used that same dummy in like two episodes, which is, I mean, you think he would have just gotten another dummy. I mean, I know maybe they were more expensive, for that time, but I mean, they couldn't have been that expensive that he couldn't have borrowed a dummy from a set somewhere. You know what I mean? Like just a different one.
Yeah, and also too, they reused some of the same masks with just different painting on them, like with more wrinkles in them and stuff like that. I mean, which they had to, because I can imagine anytime he went to that network that they were like, oh no, we're cutting you off. We're over budget for this crap.
Right.
You could almost feel it, because I mean, up to that point, he didn't have much success, but he was really young when he struck it. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a great series. And like I said, we're going to do that special show just on that. And just to finish it off with the Twilight Zone, we don't want to get too much into it because we want to save it for the other show. But what's some of the last couple episodes that you watched that you enjoyed recently, like within the last couple of weeks?
Oh, gosh. The snow and the lady sees herself on the train. Ooh.
That was a good one.
Gosh. I'm going to say above all, the one with the... no. Because that was last time I brought that up with the guy with the carousel and everything.
Well, that's my favorite one, actually. That was actually on last night. Like 3 in the morning or something like that. Yeah, that was... what was the name of that episode?
I'm bad with the names, but I'm good with what season, and because that was in the first season. And that was like the 9th or 10th episode of the very first season.
That was a great one. That was when he goes back and he sees himself as a kid during the summer.
As a kid,
he
basically freaks himself out. And the guy's parents are like ready to call the cops, like, get the hell out of here. And he's like, it's me, it's your son. And he's giving them all the right data and everything, And he's like, look, buddy, I don't know who you are or what you did to get that information,
Walking
a
Distance,
lot of it
that
too
was the name of it.
Walking Distance, my gosh.
I had to look it up because it was bothering me. It's my favorite episode and I forgot the name. But yeah, that was a great one. And his father finds the wallet and accepts the fact that it really is his son at an older age.
Yeah, too. They did one that was like in the castle and everything, where the guy's locked in a little jail. The guy's locked in the room, and he's telling him.
That's the one with the devil?
Yes.
That's a good one.
The gold digging family. I think we've covered that before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like recent, the last couple of nights. I don't know. I've been into like heavy conversation with my old lady, so it's like I'll even tell her, I'm like, let me just finish out this episode, and then I'll start texting back with you. And,
yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
There really is some great ones, yeah.
To anyone that's not a fan of it and not putting himself in the frame of mind and the time that took place, you can't begin to explain to anybody like just the aura of the show and just overall like how far out that it was out there. I mean, it was pretty much early horror if you look at it. I know it's supposed to be sci-fi, but some of the stuff they did was just freaky,
Yeah.
It was so bizarre. It's like maybe this guy discovered, White Owl vape before we did. I don't know.
Yeah. Another one that comes to mind that was really good that I really enjoyed was the one where the girl's waiting for her bus. Yeah, and it's like she's there overnight in the bus station, and she sees herself. She sees like her double.
Herself. then her bag moves. She goes to the people and she was like, "My bag is checked in." And these people are like, "Your bag is over there." Right. And she looks and it's under the bench, and she's like half driven nuts. And then you realize that, see, in a lot of those, you think just because the person's the main character that they're the good guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or the and they wind up being kind of like the anti-hero. Because you can almost understand and feel what they're saying and stuff. The one with the vagabond, the guy sells stuff right out of his suitcase.
Yeah.
That one's phenomenal. Let me think.
I mean, the ones that will always like come right to mind as always going to be my favorites from going back from when I was a kid to now, 35 something years, 40 years later. Is obviously the Nightmare at 20,000 feet with the gremlin on the plane, the masks when the father who's dying makes all his kids wear the masks, and then when he dies they take them off and they have those features of the mask. That was a great one. The dummy, but these are all real classics that everybody would say these are the best ones too.
The one where the guy is man, he's having like the worst day imaginable, but he gets the wish and just everything kind of like goes his way, and then he just says like, screw it. I want everything to go back to the way that it was.
Yeah.
I don't care if I'm a loser. I don't care if the kids in the neighborhood all laugh at me. Like he'd much rather just go back to the beginning and figure that's more challenging, than have to. Yeah, each one of them has a strong point, has a strong lesson. It's almost like you wish that your life wouldn't derail, no matter how much you complain about the situation that you're in. So
Rod Serling definitely had a, I don't know if the word is fantasy or maybe he just liked the idea of going back in time and going back to your childhood and a simpler time. Because a lot of the episodes were simply about that, like kick the can when all the nursing home
when all the old people get to do it all over again.
Then there was the one that we just talked about, Walking Distance. He wants to go back to his childhood instead of being an adult. And then there was that other one, I think it was called Young Man's Fancy, where the guy gets married, and he's, I don't know, at the end of the episode, the wife and the mother don't get along, and he's a kid again. You know what I'm saying? So it's all the same idea. It's just different stories that lead up to it. At the end of the episode, you wind up going back to being a young kid or trying to.
It's all different stories, but it's the way that they're put into different context. Some of the people that you agree with, and you're like, geez, man, no wonder this guy's so miserable and pissed off. And then other guys, you're like, this guy's just an asshole. Like, what is wrong with this guy? Like, did he have a horrible life? But they even piece that together for you. They don't leave a whole lot up to your imagination. And I always found it incredible, the stuff that they could do on. And he wasn't working with much of a budget.
Right.
The one with the used car salesman.
Yeah.
You know,
That was
like,
a good one.
yeah. Yeah, each one of them has, and I could like overanalyze every single one, but it seems like we kick everything off all the time with Twilight Zone talk, which to me is awesome. Anybody that can relate to me on that level is like, oh, that's so.
Oh man, I've been obsessed with that show since I was a kid, and for some reason the episode, for no reason, it's just coming to me now, and I'm thinking about it. The one where I guess it was like not a gentleman's club. That's not the word. It was just a club. It was just a club where they all got together and they smoked, and
it was slightly burlesque.
Yeah,
he's a
and the guy's
washed-up
talking
actor.
nonstop, and he's just annoying the hell out of this other guy, and they make that bet where the guy says you can't go. I think it was like a month without talking, and he wears the thing around his neck, and at the end he reveals that he cut his vocal cords to win the bet, and he can never talk again. That's how bad he wanted to win the bet. There's stuff like that. It's like who else did episodes like that and thought of stuff like that? Only Rod Serling did. That's why it was so revolutionary.
The one with the pool game.
Game of Pool with Jack Klugman. Great episode.
Yeah. With the two sharks. The hitchhiker.
He's dead the whole time.
Which, if you remember back in the mid-'80s, when that entire series of The Hitchhiker came up, they said basically they did pretty much rip it off from Twilight Zone. So
yeah.
Just to have somebody introduce stuff and do the wraparounds. I mean, when you look at Tales from the Crypt, you're like, well, that had to come along. You know, I mean.
Yeah.
That was almost too easy to do.
Do you have any interest in watching the? And I haven't seen any of it, and I just can't get myself to spend all this money on all these different apps for all these different things. But that new Twilight Zone show that's out, you watch any of that? I can't get into new stuff. Do you like that? I've never watched it.
Yeah, the one that I just chose out randomly to watch was literally like two Indian people, and the woman that was in the episode like stays ingrained in my head because she has got to be like one of the most gorgeous women. And I'm like this. I have my preference as far as women go, and Indian women are not that high on the list. But I took one look at this girl, and it like I was already watching along. Like the episodes are an hour a piece each, right? The girl kind of catches your eye, but it's about her husband, or it's about her boyfriend, her live-in boyfriend, who, oh man, I shouldn't get into the whole story, but he's a comedian, and pretty much anything that stands in his way, he just wishes was gone. And you see the repercussions of that. But now those episodes are like an hour apiece. I watched that one, and now I'm in the middle of the third season of going back over, like, with a fine-tooth comb, kind of like how I did with the Daria episodes.
Yeah.
And Futurama is another one I did that with, too. BoJack Horseman. I started doing that with Bob's Burgers, and I'm like, this is too childlike for me. But I started doing that with that, and it was like as soon as I get through with all the 5/6 seasons of that, I was going to give the ones from the 80s a try because I remembered a couple of them. But the last 2 seasons that they came out of Twilight Zone from like 2019, 2020, pure gold. Based off the one episode that I saw, I'm like, the spirit is there. It's kind of like today's current day and age, like wrestling era fan, where they're like, "Oh, it's different. These kids these days." No, there is plenty. There's no way anybody watches AJ Styles and doesn't feel that there's some, like, you can't tell me the guy's not talented, but you can't tell me that there's not the feeling of, forgive the double negative, you can't tell me that there's not the feeling of that aura from the 80s when you watch, like, FTR and those guys, like, you know, that's pretty much modern day incarnations.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree.
It's not them. Yeah, there's something that reminds you of the glimmer of how great it was in the past. The Simpsons do it too, to this day, to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not just going to trash the whole thing because it's modern day.
Right. I just think that the original one, it's just so hard to live up to what you grew up with that series. That, I mean, I also like the Twilight Zone movie, but I mean, that was, obviously that was just remakes of what they consider their best episodes. But I mean, if I had to choose which one would I watch, of course I would watch the original ones, even though the movie was more up to date and it had more special effects and stuff. I'd rather watch the Gremlin in that cheap little, suit with the plastic feet. You know, you can see the little plastic, pajama feet. Then watch the, the up-to-date science fiction gremlin that's like a lizard man. And I mean, it was cool. I liked it. I'm not saying I didn't like it, but if I had to choose, I'm going to go with the original.
Oh yeah, I'm the same way. I guess I still watch current day. Not so much wrestling, but I watch current day stuff just to remind myself or hope that spark or glimmer from the past is like in some of the work today. Somebody had to have been a huge fan to have gotten it. It's kind of like I think the rock band Survivor's still around, and it's all like replaced members, this, that, and the other. But there's got to be some of that in there. I don't mean that they should continue to make Eye of the Tiger and remake it. No, I mean like there's got to be some writing in there. There's got to be some instrumental. There's got to be something that harkens back to you always hear stories of roadies that just stood in and played guitar one night because they knew all the stuff and everything. So it's like, if it's grouped together with what it is, there's still something there. I mean, it's like overseas in Japan, the modern day FMW. We tried the best we could to replicate what it was in the early 90s. We did our best, and we realized that it's not sold out baseball stadiums, but the true grit and all that stuff is still in there. You know?
Yeah.
Of us,
no, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, of all of us just being like a bunch of ragtag independent guys, that were just smacked together in this place, and then there's Onita crying and screaming and dumping water over his head, and and all that. Like, there's still some of it there. You can't tell me that there's not. I mean, I felt it. I felt it deep within me, and it motivated me, mid-40s to continue on and on and on and give it the best that I could.
Right.
Up until when the company, bellied up. But that's another story for another time. We all knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, definitely. Let me throw two more things at you about the Twilight Zone, and then we'll move on. It's funny because, and like I said, I don't want to get too into this because I want to save it for when we do that show. But I'm just randomly looking at a list of what the Rolling Stone magazine, for example, gives as their great episodes, and I'm not going to read them off, but one of the episodes that's on this list is the episode 2, and it was that one with Charles Bronson and Elizabeth Montgomery just basically walking around following each other. Do you remember that episode? Like in the desert.
Yeah. Yes, I do.
That was one of the boringest things I ever saw in my life. How is that considered one of the best?
I like the one where No, I know. I like the other one that took place in the dunes in the desert where you remember it's the 3 guys?
Yes. That one I remember.
Yes.
That was a good one.
Yeah. Or the one where the rocket crashes to another planet and then they realize that they never actually left Earth.
Yeah.
That
was a good one. Yeah.
But that one is just long and drawn out. Then there's the other episode where you remember the guys on the porch and it's like all country and backwoods and it's like, boy, this is a nothing episode where nothing happened.
I don't remember that one. That might be one that I kind of always saw, it's this one and just didn't watch. Some of them were really that bad. Another one that I'm looking at right here that was one of my favorites was the After Hours when the girl she's in a department store. Turns out she's a mannequin.
Yeah. Yep.
Come to life.
Absolutely.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
She goes up to the top floor and right away she was like,
the 9th floor.
Nothing. Yeah, she's like, there's nothing around here.
Except one thimble.
Yeah. And the lady's like, here, I'll sell it to you. It's broken. And she was like, this is the only thing that you sell on the entire floor? Like, what the hell is this?
It's a great episode.
Yes.
It's a great episode.
It is. I love that episode so much. The look on her face sells the whole thing.
All right, so let's scared. I was gonna say let's save the rest of it for when we do that episode. Going over our favorite episodes because we'll talk about all this.
What
do I want to move on to next? I guess we gotta talk about the. So it looks like you're definitely going to Japan now, right? With Louis. Was there any doubt though, or was just COVID-19 maybe was the reason why it might not happen?
This just gets crazier as things go on. So I got the notice of cancellation. Because the airlines, they deal with the Japanese, with the actual border and everything. And he and I got him the temp working visa to where he could just go in for 2-3 weeks, and they're going to, they're going to deduct his money. He has to pay taxes and all that. But it's easy to do when you make a, nice chunk of money, which by all standards, it's a good chunk of money. But what wound up happening was, and I covered this before, where the company had told me, it's you, and his legal name is Luis Ramos, of course, and they're like, we can't do the talking for you. This is in your name. They're like, they won't let us speak on behalf of a company that purchased you a ticket. And they're like, one of the people from the actual Cathay Pacific were like, one of you can represent both, because the email that my email that they were sending it to, it was like they would send either mine or Louis' information. I knew that it pertained to both tickets. So, long story short, I got the ultimate cancellation like a week ago. And then out of nowhere today, they were like, your flight has been changed. And it's out of North New Jersey, and it's like on the 24th. But of course, you lose 18 hours going there because they're 18 hours ahead of us, or more like 13 hours. But I got to looking at it, and I was like, wait, this whole thing was just canceled. Now they're redoing. All right, let's roll with this. And then a couple hours after the email, because I confirmed it, I replied to it. Yes, absolutely. I need this, that, and the other. And then I got a phone call out of the blue. It said potential spam. I answer it, and it's an Indian guy that speaks English really well. And he was like, yes, I'm just calling to confirm. And I go, listen, I got some questions, Asked him all my questions and everything. He's like, all right, it's a done deal. And I was like, what? Holy Moses. And, then I started, then I put out the thing on Facebook, and then right away, it's like, because there's tons of smaller indie companies that I work for. And so right away I heard from Tababa, yeah, you and Louis are coming? Yeah, yes. And then Hanawa contacted me with Hentai Pro. You guys going to be here? Yeah. Oh, cool, man, there's this date and this date. So I go, not to build it up or give myself a bunch of false hope, but there's a chance, you know what I mean? And I don't know as far as coronavirus. I mean, I underestimated. I'll be one of those people to tell you. But nobody expected to be drug out this long.
Right.
This is, it's ridiculous, and it makes you restless, but there's nothing that you can literally do about it. I'm still working a regular job. I'm still going to work 7 days a week. I'm stuck in America. There's nothing I can do about it.
Right.
It's great to be provided that news. There's, call it false hope or whatever. But if there's a chance, and this is, believe it or not, this is what? Our fourth attempt at getting Louis to come with me to Japan. So it's like, if not that, then, I've always been given the rain check from the Japanese people. Let us know when all this can subside. They tell me. See, the weird thing is that with the Japanese government, this is changing by the week. This is changing. This is all changing at almost a moment's notice, as far as tourism people coming in, people that are workers. Now, clearly, I'm not deemed an essential worker, so that's only going so far as professional wrestling goes. But so many groups, even New Japan is running in a studio just to continue content. Because they don't want to run in these giant, 15,000 seat arenas and then only have 100 people showing up, because, even though they're going to jack up tickets through the roof, still they wanted a crowd and this, that, and the other. So I guess it pales in the comparison to what people here stateside have done. What do they do? One kid was dressed up like a Klansman. Another kid put Chris Benoit's picture up.
Yeah.
Jeez.
What was the other thing? It was the Klansmen. They put a, what do you call it, up on there?
A hanging or a killing or something.
Cutting someone's head off, which is come on, you really have. That disturbs human being that did that. That put that on there.
Even for you to go up there as a Klansman, you're a fucking goof.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It's
That
like,
obviously
come
wasn't
on,
the Klansman.
man.
That was someone who got a video of a Klansman and just put the camera on there like they did with the Benoit pitches.
Yeah, and just thought, this will be funny. This will get a rise out of people.
Probably some 14-year-old or something like that, weirdo.
Yeah.
You know?
Hey, I dare to be stupid. I'm going to do this. But, hey, you know, for what it's worth, man, you got to give somebody something for creativity. Somebody had to. Do you remember it was on the one podcast that I did with you? I remember this very well. I go, if there's a way to superimpose and, like, put fans who throughout the years have been some of their best fans, you know, and fill that up for a crowd. Yeah. And somebody told me, like, Blue Meanie had something, like, similar to that. I love the Blue Meanie to death. And I'm like, yeah, he thinks along the same lines as I do, because I swear to God, I came up with that in my own mind.
I do remember that.
I'm far from the smartest man alive, you know, but I always thought...
weren't they doing this, like, where were they doing this? This isn't the first thing that... WWE isn't the first ones that tried this. Wasn't the NBA or somebody tried doing this? Maybe not
Major League Baseball, too.
Yeah,
Major League Baseball.
With the cardboard cutouts, yeah.
Yeah, and they'll cut to, like, certain shots, and it looks like shit, because in some of the shots that they cut to, there's nobody there.
Yeah, it's all empty. It's kind of dumb. They're just putting it, like, right in front, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
The only thing that I found interesting, well, not even interesting, just funny, as far as the WWE and all these, you know, video fans or whatever you want to call them, was that Kenny Omega did it. I just thought that was kind of funny. That's about it, though. All the other ones are like, you know.
Listen, man, I love the fine tradition. It was funny because when Kenny Omega was leaving DDT, that's when me and Pogo had started up, because they did the whole invasion thing with Pogo. And but they did the thing with Pogo as a babyface. Like, he came in and he was like, hey, you know, like, he was like, it's your old grandpa Pogo here. He's like, hey, let that girl go. And it was like one of the girls from the ABK, you know, the little pop group.
Yeah. Right.
And I uploaded that onto YouTube. The DDT, the WWS Pogo invasion.
Right.
It's like 20 minutes, and it's just wild. You see us, like, Toryu and Toy and me under mask. But you see, like, the whole invasion thing, and it's just this weird, crazy rave by these underage little Japanese girls singing. And you see grown men in their 50s dancing like effeminately, like little girls to this shit.
Yeah.
It's just wild, man. Like, you can do that in Japan. That's all well and good.
Right.
You know? A lot of what they do with, like, Bray Wyatt and that kind of stuff, that's some DDT stuff. That doesn't work with mainstream. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, it would work in a cult type of way, but not in a national company. You can't do that there.
Right.
It's the same thing, like, with AEW, when they do the same kind of thing. It's just like, no, man, you can't do that mainstream. That works in a cult kind of way. It doesn't work like. But anyhow, I started rambling.
AEW kind of threw me off this week, though, because I saw Janela say it. He was like, "Good to have the fans back," and I was like, "Where were they though? Like, what did they do? They had like 50 fans in the arena, I guess. That's really far from having the fans back. I mean, it was still empty though, so I don't know what they were talking about."
Yeah, but with Tony Khan's money, I mean, those people could just do and film basically whatever they want.
Yeah.
Yeah, until they see the red and they go, wait a minute. But
right.
There's a lot of red. Except, you know, WWE is what, $1 billion a year they get paid for putting that on TV. So
right.
But yeah, even with that, it's and like with me returning to Japan, that's one of those things. Like, every group out there basically that's still active and still going. A bunch of them folded just because they were too small to survive, and they were too big to be small and too small to be big. People expected something out of them, but they weren't prepared to deal with Corona and all this other pandemic. But Ice Ribbon Dojo has been so busy. Basement Monster stays busy because they only have limited seating to maybe that building at capacity is only 200-300 people. The thing is that they have installed in the place is 2 permanent cameras where whoever you are running, that thing's taping the whole time. So then they put out DVDs and downloads they make available, and you'll see independent owners of those companies like Tabava himself will go to each of his matches with a stack of DVDs like, oh, yeah, this one I wrestled Chainsaw Tony. And this one I go, and this one I go against Ricky Fuji. And then this one I wrestled Tony Myers. Like, you know what I mean? Muto Pro does that too, to where their seating capacity is like 400 or 500 people, but it's the downloads and everything else and their sponsorship that they've hustled. Bar and Fight, that tiny little place, that bar and fight place that they run out of in Shinjuku, that only seats like 100 people.
Right.
So it's like they did the same thing. They taped in front of like maybe 20, 25 people. And, the people that were there were buying all kinds of crazy merchandise because they have money saved. They haven't been going out. They haven't been going anywhere.
Here's a question I have. Recently, man, I haven't bought anything from, because I really don't buy like memorabilia of any kind, but I came across, Rob Feinstein, right? The guy with the DVD guy. He's been around forever. I used to buy VHSs back in the day from him, and he's still around. And I've had yeah. Oh no, I've had so many run-ins and so many ups and downs, and we were around the same age when we started getting around wrestling. Like me, him, guys like Joel Gertner. Where we were such big super fans that, eventually we had to break in. I would remember reading guys that were contributors to the Wrestling Observer. Next thing I know, I look and I'm reading the results and there they are wrestling. So, and that kind of thing. But I'm sorry, man. I pulled you away from whatever. All I was going to say is that he's been doing, and it's like I haven't really even thought about the guy in a long time, but I recently came across like him on Facebook, and he's doing virtual signings, and he did one with like Francine and then the Sandman, and it, I just watched it for a few hours and just watching him sign the stuff, and they're telling stories and everything like that. But the thing that I'm confused about is like he sells like on these virtual auctions like a crap load of DVDs, and I'm like, you can't even like find like a DVD player like in Target or anything anymore. So I thought DVDs were like kind of obsolete, but I guess some people still use them a lot.
Yeah, like in Japan, it's a physical thing where they get the physical DVD. Now they can walk around and have guys sign it, and it's something that I'll never forget this. One of DJ Hyde's first nights in the old FMW, not the old, revised FMW, is me, him, and Tremont. And DJ just explained to a Japanese guy who spoke perfect English. He goes, go to czw.com or czwrestling.com or whatever it is. And he goes, and download it. He goes, because I'm really sorry I'm out of it. And I laughed like in a weird like way because I'm not going to hide it, man. I'm still friends with DJ. And so I kind of laughed at DJ and I go, that's nice, man. Tell him to fucking download. Tell him to, instead of actually selling the DVD or saying, hey, man, I could ship it to you with the boys sign it. And DJ broke down right there off the tip of his tongue, like the cost of producing a DVD.
Right.
Versus putting
it up, right, and having people download.
Yeah, the percentage of an actual net of money he's going to take in by download. So, like that, like even though it's the most technologically advanced country in the world, there's still some things that will remain. They still use fax machines. Right. Everybody's on the phone over there, but still. You still look over there, and there's still people reading newspapers. So
right, yeah.
I was like, I did not get a phone that you can operate, with your finger and all that. I still had a flip phone up until 2013 because I already told myself, I was like, I don't want to be one of these people I see that are in their phone all the time.
Right.
And now I try not to, but I'm in my phone a lot.
Yeah.
Just because I can communicate with so many people. Yeah, social media. Yeah. What else am I going to do?
Right.
If the rug comes out from under me and Louie and they tell me, oh yeah, this flight's canceled, you guys can't do, hey, so be it. I'll just go back to work next morning or whatever. I'm trying to not get my hopes up too high, but right now, it's strange as it is, they've given us the green light. They've given us a flight. They've given us the time. They even called to confirm it. So what else can I possibly say or do? It's beyond strange. I don't even know how to. 1 week ago, I was posting, woe is me, they canceled this, and I put up the screenshot. It's legit. It's got my legal name on it and everything. And then 1 week later, I'm like, hey, they just said that, here you go. You're going. So.
I guess it's already September. Was it the first already? Beginning of September. So I don't think you're going to be doing any shows here before you go, right?
No, I always call it the yearly balloting because right before I leave to go over there, everybody in the like even last year I heard from Pondo, and he was like, "Man, we need to get you in here," and I was like, "Sorry, dude. Halloween's like my WrestleMania."
Right.
So not only that, between the pandemic and certain politics, I don't want to give myself a headache.
Right.
There were a bunch of places I was booked at, and then the pandemic, and everybody canceled, and it forced me to take a step back and be like, what if you had to live your life without wrestling? Like, what would you do?
Yeah.
And then I just got to the point where I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't want to sound like an asshole and be like, I don't need wrestling. Wrestling needs me. I'm not trying to say that. I'm saying that I don't need it like I did when I was 15 years old and having my first matches. And then I really needed it. If I'm going to drain the tank, if I'm going to give every bit of energy that there is to possibly give, I got to give it to Japan because it's where I've, got the most out of.
Right.
Money doesn't even compare. But then again, in Japan, I drifted around the Indies until, I was 2002 when Pogo realized that getting the original Leatherface is a monumental pain in the ass because of his past. And, his work visa's all screwed up. And then the second one had made enough money where he retired and, opened up a farm with his brother out in Canada. So, I was kind of I was given something. I just hope to make good on it the best that I possibly can.
Right. You mentioned DJ Hyde, CZW. They're kind of flat. I mean, right now you don't really hear much going on. You don't really hear much. Like for instance, Matt Tremont. He's doing shows and stuff like that. He's got the school up and everything like that. He's doing a lot of stuff. I don't know if CZW is even looking to do shows anytime soon. So it's amazing, like how much they were in the limelight, and now they're really just almost like an afterthought, at least until things get back to normal, which could be a long time.
Yeah, and they took a really big hit. There's a lot that, people would shun away from talking about. And, there was the whole movement in pro wrestling. I guess it was a Me Too movement in wrestling.
We talked about that last time, too.
Yeah, I guess DJ was one of the guys that got nabbed in that and that kind of thing. So that even more, put a damper and put a rope.
I don't think he got nabbed for girl stuff. What did he get nabbed for? He said something. I can't remember what it was. A gay slur to the audience. I think. Well, I'm pretty sure.
There's been so many things, and people have left there, left and right, and just and that kind of thing. But what mostly happened was, what was it? Some of the girls at the wrestling academy, wrestling school they had were complaining about stuff that was inappropriate and this, that, and the other. And then the horrible thing was, in many people's eyes, was that he sold the footage of the females wrestling to pretty much a very sleazy, exploitive, and
I remember you telling me about that, last time, or a couple of shows ago. They weren't happy about that.
Yeah, and with Tremont and H2O, we had this whole thing lined up, and I had been talking with Louis' wife. We were going to surprise him in the ring, and congratulations, you're going to Japan, and the whole pandemic thing happens, and I just thought, man, I was one of the guys that were going to reveal to Louis that shit in the middle of the ring. The guy's crowned the heavyweight champion, and I'm not even booked. It's like, so I just thought, you know what, take a big step back, now let your ego look at yourself and be like, dude, this ain't Japan. Like,
right.
I'm happy. I was happy to go down there, but I don't know, man. If I have to be an afterthought, like here was another thing, and I'm just speaking off the cuff. I remember they came out with a whole like a bunch of shoot interviews. I've never done a shoot interview. I've never sat down in front of a camera and you know what I mean. I've done a bunch of podcasts, but I've never done one of those shoot interviews. So they go, anybody that's available, anybody that wants to, and I threw my name in that, and I go, hey man, I'd be happy to go down there, and me, I got a lot to get off my chest, It's so weird because with the Japanese thing, it loses translation. But I was like, yeah, sure. And then it became like an afterthought. Like it was never brought back up to me. And I was like, huh, ouch. I think between Memphis and Puerto Rico, Japan, like I think I've got some great story. Like, I don't know. I guess not. I don't know. But yeah, so it was like, just, you know what? If you're going to put your heart into something and call a place your home and go somewhere and give all that you got and bang yourself up and still be throwing drop. Like the other day I was thinking, man, I'd like to just throw a drop kick right now just to prove to myself I love my drop kicks. I can actually get up there at 46 years of age. I like throwing drop kicks. Even as a heel, I do it all the time in Japan. I'll do a standing drop kick or a running drop kick. And then I just kind of like arch my back and get on one knee, like, hey, look at that! Look what I just did, I love doing goofy stuff like that. That's just me.
Yeah. Did you see? Before I forget, Joe Gacy, right?
Oh yeah.
I saw today that he got picked up by NXT. I'm surprised. I don't know why I'm surprised, but I don't know. I just never really thought that he would be in WWE.
That guy has been on the radar with them seemingly forever.
Really? I never heard that. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to like make it like I'm a big shot and I have like such a personal, no. Some of the people that I know that are in WWE, one of them was like, you know Joe Gacy, right? And I was like, what? Like, how do you know that guy? But I remember going to, when I did Casanova Valentine, when I did his thing, I sat with Joe Gacy and just talked with him for like 2 hours. When I had my own deathmatch stuff and I was down there by myself in Memphis, Joe Gacy was one of the guys I brought in because I brought in him, DJ, and that fucking goofy Sammy Callahan. I brought all those guys in. And Joe was a guy, like I remember him rolling up a poster, and it was this giant, like laminated poster, like CZW versus Sex and Violence.
Yeah.
And I remember glancing over there, Joe, and I was like, "Oh, you're gonna take that one?" I was like, "Damn it," because I wanted that one. Because the one that I rolled up was all wrinkled.
Right.
And he was like, he looked at me and he sheepishly, and this is back in 2009. He sheepishly goes, "I've never been flown anywhere to wrestle before." I was like, "Yeah," and he remembered that when I came back up to Jersey, and it's like ex-wife, ex-fiance who used to run wrestling, WPW out of PA. She brought him in with Brian Slater. They were the Runaways. And even then I started, chatting with Joe a bit. But I just remember 2000, a year or so ago when I went up there for Casanova Valentine. And I told Joe, I was like, dude, like, now I hear that there's rumblings like you and WWE, like, holy shit, dude, like you're gonna get signed. I was like, the only thing is with him, it's like, bro, it's like, I wish to God that they got a hold of you 10 years ago when you were going to the wrestling school every single day and you love to take bumps. Now you're older, wiser, and you're going to have to walk in there and they're going to treat, they're not going to treat him like he's never wrestled before. Let's see. Joseph Ruby, he's, let me think, he was 21 when he came down there. So, yeah, he's like early 30s.
Okay.
Yeah. People don't realize he was just a kid when he started out with CCW, and he's been there, it seems like forever, but
Right.
Yeah, he was really young. But I mean, it was funny because I was sitting here with him and Ophidian, Amasis. You remember that team? The whole thing went viral with him and Gacy.
Oh yeah.
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 And I was sitting there with it, and I'm like, wait a minute. It just dawned on me. I'm like, these were the two guys that went viral, like doing the whole hypnosis thing. And I'm like, wait a minute.
So funny
I was like,
too.
and I admitted it to him.
Dancing back and forth, and then the snake too, right? That was fun.
Yeah, and then I told Joe Gacy. I told Joe Gacy, I go, fuck this. I'm marking out. I'm like, yo, you two are sitting right in front of me. I'm like, tell me, at what point did you guys realize this shit was viral and like, holy shit, Yeah. And Gacy goes, oh, man, you ain't going to put me over in front of him, man. I've known him forever. And I'm like, no, fuck that. Like, you dudes went viral. Like, how kick-ass was that? And he's like, he's like such a humble guy. He's like, you ain't got to say that in front of him, man. I'm like, well, no, really, I do. Like, I'm curious.
It's going to be interesting to see, like, what they do with him, though, because NXT is kind of hit or miss. I mean, like, they kind of dropped the ball with Sami Callihan, but then you look at, like, Killer Cross, who they basically just put, like, on the fast track. They, he went in there with the girl, Scarlett Bordeaux. I guess that's his wife or his girlfriend in real life. I mean, they're just big stars already. I mean, they've only been there like a couple of months. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with him. What kind of character they give him. They're going to change him up a little bit.
Yeah. I want to see what's done. Like, that'll make me tune into the show just to see. I mean.
Yeah, it's just out of curiosity.
Yeah, I was, and it's so funny because I'm sitting there talking to them, and then Pete Dunne himself, like, walks back up there. He's like, "What's up, man?" to Joe Gacy, and I was like, "That's one of the I'm like, "That's one of the NXT guys, right?" Like, holy shit, like that guy's a big deal. I know about him, and I don't even watch the show.
Right.
And they're like, "Oh yeah, he came down here with his blessings." I'm like, dude, it's WrestleMania weekend. I'm sure this guy has better stuff to do. Like,
right.
I'm weird about when the boys put me over in front of the other boys. Like, you talked about DJ Hyde H2O. I walked into Tremont's, and I saw DJ Hyde, like, he was on the backside of the ring. And I'm just, hello to everybody. And all of a sudden, like, I'm like 20 feet, I'm walking to where DJ is, and in front of everybody goes, "Oh, yeah, I'm just nobody. You're going to say hello to everybody but me." He did in front of everybody. So
I wonder if DJ Hyde would sell CZW at this point, and would anybody buy it? That's the other thing, right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's
kind of been stripped down, over the last 10 years or more.
It's been downsized and this, that, and the other. They didn't get to do Tournament of Death this year, which would have been a major help for them. I don't understand why they couldn't do it in a quarantine kind of way.
Especially don't they do it like on farms, like his mother's farm or something? I mean, I'm surprised they didn't do it. So why wouldn't they do it?
Well, they had changed locations. I can't remember why. I think it was just an inherent pain in the ass for his dad to have all those people on the property, and then there's legalities, the athletic commission, this, that. There's people, anybody that thinks about promoting or anybody that wants to bitch about wrestling promoters needs to run their own shit at least one time and see what an inherent bitch and a pain in the ass from hell that shit is. I've ran several of my own, and it's just it's beyond a headache. Ugh.
I believe it. Yeah, like nobody legalities alone.
Yeah, it's enough to like drive you crazy, overanalyze. I mean, my God. And then you got people coming from everywhere. It's like Dunn. There's like sharks. That have got to find a way to get into the promotion's good graces, this, that, and the other, and you got to do your routine calls, see how this guy that you give a handful of tickets to, and that one, see how that's going and what they're doing, and it's not nearly as easy. Everyone's like, "Oh, the promoters are crooks." It's like, then try to do your own and see what happens.
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely agree.
You get so sick and tired of hearing people going, "Yeah, I'm coming, and they'll come, and you're like, "Well, should I cut them off out of my life forever?" Like, screw them. They told me they were going to be there. They weren't there. Ouch. you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just an inherent pain in the ass from hell. All that stuff.
Definitely. I got to also ask you, and we'll go back to wrestling in a minute. But what's the deal with this car wreck you was talking about? You since the last time we talked, you mean you had a car accident? You wrecked the car?
Oh God, no! This goes back. I told nobody about this because
Okay. Because
I
remember you saying it.
Yeah, and I would have posted it. I would have talked about it on social media, but it was just so aggravating and frustrating. And it actually happened like 4 or 5 months ago. I bought last year. I bought the brand new 2019 Sonic, right?
Okay.
So here I am doing car payments, which I made like over half the down payment alone was I trade in a smart car that I used to deliver in, just because it looked like fun and it was a great car, but it was such a pain in the ass buying from Benz, and there's only the nearest person to service a smart car in Jersey is 45 minutes one way. So it's a pain in the ass. Every 10,000 miles, it's like an oil change, but it's over there at Benz where they're demanding that you put in new spark plugs because that's part of the plan. And
right.
So I traded in that car. Half the money that it cost for a Sonic is what I got on the trade-in of a smart car anyway.
Right.
Now, so even with the minuscule payments, if I don't pay my car insurance, they want me to turn in the plates to my vehicle. Otherwise, they suspend your driver's license in the state of New Jersey if you don't. So,
wow.
The car had 8,000 miles on it. I come back here, and maybe not even a month after I come back to Jersey, I pull up to the first light that I pull up to every day on my way to work. I was going to a place called PIP Printing, which that's actually a place that they were willing to do my keychains and my stickers. Plus, I had to pick up a bunch of menus for the catering company I work for the restaurant side. They got a whole bunch of new menus, new prices, some new products, all this other good stuff. I was on my way there. So I pull up to my first red light. I look to my left, and there's this SUV in the far distance. I look to my right. I'm like, nobody's coming. The light's green. I had been waiting there for it to change. So I pound on the gas, and the second I do, I just hear boom,
oh, man.
It was the exact same thing, but without the high piercing of when Onita's hit me with that exploded barbed wire bat.
Where did he hit you? Head on, back, side?
She was coming from my left, so she hit the front end.
Oh, she hit the front end. I got you.
She hit my front end. When I went to take off, I hit the side of her car.
So
I didn't expect her to
fault, right?
Yeah, I didn't expect her to run a red light in broad daylight.
Oh,
like, how do you misjudge that judgment?
Yeah.
So boom,
she drunk or something?
This was the crazy part. So I'm looking up and I'm like, the light's still green, and now the light turns red. So I'm like, all right, I wasn't going crazy.
Right.
I was like, I had enough presence of mind, even at the spur of the moment, to be like, all right, it was green and it's still green. Now it's turning red. Now I better get the hell out of the road. And I was like, oh, cool. I'm still able to drive this car. I pull over, and I'm maybe 25 feet behind her. And I get out of my car, and the whole time I'm telling myself, I'm like, don't flip out, don't freak out, don't start yelling. Right. I was like, you don't know who's in that car, you don't know what the deal is. And I pick up my phone, and I start calling the police because I'm like, well, there's no way that this is going to wind up, Yeah. I was like, my mind was just blown. I get out of my car, and slowly the other person getting out of the car, because I hit her side, I hit her passenger side. If it had been another split second, she'd have hit me in my driver's side.
Right.
Like if I took off another split second before. I'm one of those guys, the light's green, I wait that split second because I kind of look
around. To make
around.
sure someone doesn't run it. I do that too.
I'm one of those people because I know people are idiots that drive.
Yeah. They try and sneak through.
So I get out of my car and I start approaching her car slowly, like, oh boy. And at the same time, I could hear the ringing. the police had picked up, and I started explaining to him slowly. And all of a sudden, this old lady, she looked like she was 120, but it came out in the documentation she was 85, gets out of her car, and she looking at the side of hers, she's looking at my front, and she makes this weird, like but not like crying, like just this crazy, like yelping. I was like, what is this shit?
Right.
And I'm looking at her like, I'm looking at her thinking like, she's going to say sorry at least or anything? Well, when she didn't, that started to, now I'm starting to burn up a little bit.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm telling the police what happened. Okay, somebody's on the way. And she looks at me and she goes, you were on your phone. I go, I'm on the phone. And I said this calmly. I go, I'm on the phone because you just blew through a red light and smashed in the whole front end of my car.
Right.
And she's like in this heavy, it sounded like a Danish accent. She was like, your car, you hit in my car. And
I
I
tried
just
to blame
said,
you.
And I just looked at her like she was crazy. And I go, it's better if you get in your car. The police are on the way. And I got in my car and I lit up a cigarette and I go, I can't believe this is the start of my day.
Yeah.
And the car was drivable. So I go, screw it. I'm going to go to work anyway. But did you ever wish that with a situation like that there was a life way to copy and paste?
Yeah, just
something
go back.
that happened that yeah. If my car was still screwed up, I would
go back.
Yeah. It was like, boom, I closed my door and this happened, I almost wish to God there was a copy and paste in real life you could do, because everybody that took a look at my car was like, I would be pulling up to somebody's birthday party or something I was catering to at my job, and they'd be like, ho, someone got your good there, and I'm like,
yeah,
what a jerk off thing to say to a guy that had the whole front of his car. Long story short, when I first contacted my insurance company, I started to throw a fit because it was at the corner of a major intersection, and lo and behold, there's a major corporate company that you need an escort every time you go to deliver there. Yeah, you need like an escort and a badge and all this stuff. And I look up there and I'm like, good. They got it on surveillance. Like, all right, at least that part's easy,
Right.
But what had happened was it took my insurance company, State Farm, and I'm so ready to drop them like a hot potato because it took them 2.5 months to get me a check.
Wow.
On 4 days after this accident happened, I was like, why do you not have the surveillance? Where is the video? I was like, you better do something because I know they record over crap like that.
Yeah.
I was the one that was staying on my insurance company. Not my insurance company, obtaining, and they gave more excuses than a convict going back to jail.
Wow.
They kept telling me, the coronavirus, and yeah, we're acquiring the footage. And after about 2 weeks, and her insurance company, they had contacted me, and my insurance company was like, well, we're very against you making any kind of a statement. And I go, you guys are doing nothing. Now I start to get hot.
Right.
And even with her insurance company, I go, and even the cop at the scene of the accident, I go, because the guy goes, well, he goes, you called us. And I go, look, man, I'm not going to lose. I told the cop, I go, I'm not going to lose it. I'm just going to say, I go, is it just me or did this woman run through a red light in broad daylight? Like, it doesn't get any more clear than that.
Right.
I felt like I was in a Twilight Zone. But I mean, with such a cut copy, a clear cut case against them, it's like, how the hell do you, it took like 2.5 months. They gave me a $4,000 settlement, to get the car fixed. And then when I brought it up there was other internal things that they didn't account for, so they need additional parts. So I go, well, you're going back to our insurance company. And then when my insurance company contacted me, they go, there's a $500 premium, a deductible. And then, I wound up telling my oldest about it. My oldest just lost it. And she was like, if he had, She said this to them when I went to the place, drop my car off to get fixed, and which is a good client of ours because they order all the time. They order like, pretty good high-end food, and they tip her well on top of it. My kid cut the promo on the people because, she drove me back in her car. She was like, if he has to come out of pocket for 1 penny, I am beyond outraged. She goes, it's taken you people almost 4 months, this entire thing. She goes, it took you 2.5 just to cut the guy the check.
Right, that's
she
crazy.
Goes, this whole thing has been going on, because even after I received the money, I go, I've been driving around the car like this anyway, front all bashed in. They did an excellent job fixing everything up, but it was just so infuriating to even deal with. I'm like, how much more cut and simple and dry and simple does it get than that? That you can see this woman bashed in my car. Like, I was kind of proud of myself in a weird way because I was like, and it was so funny because so many people, coworkers had asked me about it, and I was like, I don't even want to talk about it. And now at least I could tell them, like, go to this link if you want to hear the story. It would have been better when the car was still bashed in. I would have got you that many more people that would have tuned into your podcast.
You know what you need to do?
Or at
You
least
need to drop State Farm and go with Geico. I've had Geico since 2003, and I had a car accident in 2007 where I flipped the car, and I had in 2014. You probably don't remember because you might have probably been in Japan, and even if you weren't, you're in New Jersey anyway. But here in New York, we had like 14 inches of rain in an hour in August of 2014, and I was driving to work at like 5 in the morning, and it was dark, and a whole bunch of us on the road basically drove into a lake on the Southern State Parkway over here, and the car got ruined, obviously. And both times, Geico completely paid for it, got the check probably within a couple of weeks. Wasn't months, I know that. And they were very good about it. They didn't raise my premium or anything. So get rid of State Farm. I mean, that sounds like a joke of an insurance company.
The only reason I went with them is because my father, who turned 80 months ago, like a couple months ago, he had told me, I've been dealing with them for a half a century. They've always, and that's the only reason I went with them, because when I moved back up to Jersey, I go, I'm going to go with that, because this way, then my father, if anything ever happens with my insurance, then that's one less thing that he doesn't have to come over to my place, bitch at me, like, hey, should have went with what I told you. You know what I mean? Like, that was the only reasoning for me dealing with any of them and putting up with any of this. Same thing with the Verizon that I deal with. I only did it because I was on the family plan originally, and, my dad, everything out of his mouth was Verizon. And then one Christmas, he bought me a new phone. And I was like, I can't go against it now, I can't go against the family plan of Verizon.
Right.
Yeah, so it was one of those deals where, I love the thought of my dad helping, trying to still help me out.
Right.
Even though I'm a 46-year-old grandfather, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. But things change with these companies. Like a long time ago, this is before 2003, before I was with Geico, I was with Progressive. And, my insurance was high already because I was, early 20s or whatever. But, they were very good at first. And then every 6 months or a year, whatever it was, the insurance just kept going up. But I had no accidents, no tickets. And I'm like, enough of this. And that's when sometimes you got to just change. Or at least look into changing and see. Might be surprised how much better they are.
I hope that. Oh man!
All right there, Tony. You're dying.
Yeah. No, that's Big Chief. It's one of those things I realize I got to give up cold turkey.
Smoking?
Yeah, toking, I guess you want to say.
I got it,
yeah. There's a buddy of mine out in Japan. He's like, a THC. I just started laughing at him because we were in a bar when he said it to me, and I go, that's so Japanese of him. He assumes like THC. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things. I'll quit cold turkey, and realizing that whether or not whether or not it goes through again or they pull the rug out from me in the next 7 weeks, I'm like, 7 weeks is a long time to start dieting, portioning, eating right. I'm like, look, it's been too long for me that I've just sat around, rested on laurels, no gyms open. I sent an elongated email and told them I actually carry in my wallet the piece of paper that says my Planet Fitness membership was, and I'm like, I calculated it all, and I go, it's like $200 that they actually owe me back because I pulled my membership because I was going back to Japan. I was billed up until a few months ago, or up until like last month. So I, hand typed all that out to them, emailed it back, and I was like, you guys owe me some money here because I still carry around the cancellation of this is the last time. Thank you for your, using our business, this, that, and the other. So even with them, I was like, that's nice. That's something you want to be vocal about because, hey, man, if I was to look around my place right now and I found $150 or $200, I'd say, hey, it's $150, $200.
They should have been charging you though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand. The last gym that I dealt with, they were like, well, the deal that we gave you could have been part of a special. And I go, listen to me. I go, I am going back to Japan to reside there. And this is 2018 when I stayed there for like 4, almost 5 months. So I was like, and they're like, well, do you have some kind of, and I go, I have legal documentation of my house that I bought. I was like, but I don't see how that's necessary. I'm not giving nobody my copy of my deed, anything. I pay between 16, 17 grand a year and just property tax alone. My house is in the middle of the tourist capital of the universe, much less, Japan. It's in Asakusa, where all the temples are and everything. So, well, it just so happened that my fifth wife, the Japanese wife, she wasn't getting along with the people that reside inside my house. They were all church people. She was from a Buddhist temple. She got into a fight over this one's girlfriend and all this mess. So she's the one that went to the wrestling people at WWS and told them he needs an apartment. Because she wanted to stay with me. She's my wife at the time. So she didn't want to be around that house. So they were kind enough to get me that apartment for 4, almost 5 months that I resided there in 2018. But I told them, I go, if I send you a copy of that agreement to the apartment that's been rented out for me on behalf of the I said, how the hell are you going to read katakana? I can't even do that. And, the lady was like, she was a real bitch about it. The only plus to going there was I would see some of the people I grew up around in my hometown and the other people that knew about the wrestling that thought it was fascinating. And Snooki, I had run into her at my gym all the time.
That's okay. Snooki, yeah.
Look, I know people say what they want. They shit all over her, but she is really – the one day I was kicking and working on the bag, and I kind of like giggled to myself. I go, that chick's a Snooki clone. Look at that. Typical Jersey, And then I kind of glance over there. I go, it is Snooki.
Yeah.
And, up to this point, I had delivered several times to her, and she goes, I could see why you guys tape up your feet so much. Right. And I was like, hey, you got a WrestleMania match. She goes, oh, man. She goes, I got so much shit for that. And I go, from who? And she goes, these fucking wrestling fans were like, you bitch, what were you doing in the match in WrestleMania? You're not a real wrestler. I'm like, and I'm talking to her, and I'm slowly stopping, kicking the bag, and I look at her, and I go, you've got to be shitting me. She goes, dude, I blocked so many weird wrestling fans that were like, you bitch, you didn't belong in the ring. You're not a fraction of the wrestler that so-and-so is. Do you know how many guys are struggling in independence, and you stepped in there and you had a WrestleMania moment, and they, she was telling me all that, and I was like, yeah, wrestling fans are just wild, and they're fucking crazy. And I was like, man, they will eat you up. And then I just started bullshitting with her. I go, and this is where Rob Feinstein comes in. Because when Onita came to the States, Feinstein approached me and he goes, Leatherface, can I get you to sign? And I go, Rob, it's, and he goes, yeah, I know, I didn't want it. And I was like, yeah, you've known me forever, man. And he was like, how'd you get hooked back up with Onita like that? And, he and I got to talking. And I was like, yeah. And, we were bringing up, like, he brought up Onita's scandal. And
right.
I'm very public with that. I'll talk with anybody in any detail about that. But with Feinstein, I go, yeah, man, you went through some shit there, buddy. I was like, man. And he was like, yeah, I fucked up a lot of shit. He was at least open and honest.
You're talking about Feinstein with the Sting?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah. No, that was I gotta say, and I don't know Rob Feinstein. I watch his stuff every once in a while. Back in the day, I used to order VHS tapes here and there from him. But when you look at that, he got away with really. I mean, he could have got locked up if that was like the real feds or whatever going after him. He's lucky that was just like what do you call it? Just like a newscast that was doing it.
Yeah,
I know
and you know what?
He's had excuses for it, but I mean, he's on video, running to his car. I mean, I don't know. It was a long time ago, but doesn't mean it didn't happen.
I've known Mark Carluzzo since he was like a little kid, and the one day he sent me a message. He goes, "Dude, holy shit! Nobody ever calls Feinstein out on that." And I go, "Dude, he's up there making fun of fucking what was that girl's name? Emma, the one that got busted stealing a fucking iPod case inside of a Walmart."
So yeah, that's a.
Yeah, he was like,
yeah.
Yeah, he put up there like on his Facebook. He put Emma emancipated. Like he did the whole colon thing and everything.
Right.
And I go, Rob. And I said this to him, I put it on his Facebook, and I was like, next thing I'm going to do is call him. And, like, dude, I'll call you out on shit like this. Like, I got nothing to lose. Like, any of the dealings I have are over in Japan. You're not going to hurt me over there. Those people know who I am. They know all my highs and lows. They know what's good. They know what's bad about me. Like, bro, I'm just telling you as a human being. You had a scandal. Like, big deal. This girl didn't pay for her fucking case or whatever. But, bro... And I remember Mark Carluzzo inboxing me going, nobody ever fucking calls him out on that shit. I go, well, what do you want me to do? Like, I met her, like, the whole Memphis thing and the 6 degrees of separation and all that stuff. I'm never going to say I was the girl's best friend or really even that good of friends with her. But it's just like, come on, man. You know what I mean?
I mean,
do I really need to analyze?
Yeah. He's a likable guy. I mean, Rob Feinstein's a likable guy. I mean, like I said before, I've been recently watching him on these virtual signings, and he seems like he's a really nice guy and everything like that. And to his credit, whatever that thing was, and I don't want to like over, it's so old, and everybody knows what it was. It's all over. You just Google it comes right up. But I mean, he hasn't gotten anything like that since then. So maybe he learned his lesson. Then I saw stories about him saying that it was a setup and so. And again, who knows? I mean, I don't know. But
if people knew what was out there from when I was around Memphis,
when you say nobody calls him out on it, is it just the fact that they're not going to call him out because a lot of people need him, right?
Yeah, and he wields a certain amount of power. Like I'm not kidding. I'm not joking about that at all. Yeah, and it's just like. I remember there's another one of those weird things that you shouldn't be saying or whatever. Do you know all the shit? Can you imagine if I opened up about Memphis, the shit that I saw going on around there? The WWF guys, WWE now, WWF guys are coming to town, and, man, they were getting pussy and blow and all kinds of roids and shit. Reggie be fine. He was right there, like fucking all that. They had goofs like me running around fucking helping them because I would have done anything. Like, that's cool with me, The reason why he gets the backlash is the reason why I do. Because we were all humongous fucking marks, and we found a way to get in or make some money or live our weird dreams or in this universe, fucking nobody Jason Myers from fucking, he gets to wrestle Onita. Why? Why him? Why does he get to be his right hand? Why does he get to book Onita's foreign talent? Why him? What is going on? Like, that causes a ton of resentment. It really does. I swear to God. Truth be known.
I believe it. One thing,
right now there's somebody sitting there like grumbling like, oh, that's Sam Namo. Yeah. Man, they wish they had a platform like yours.
Yeah.
All the downloads you get, the people that see what you're doing, like, most people podcasting would kill for what you have. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, they have the ability to do what I do. They just have to spend the money and put in the time. I mean, it's not like I have some secret formula here, right?
I'll never forget. I never hid this, and there's pictures of it all over. And if anybody listening wants them, I'll send them to me. There's like 100 pictures. What happened was Dave Meltzer came in 2020. It was earlier this year. He came in for that Kingdom thing, and I can't say who, but they contacted me and they go, Dave Meltzer's coming in. There's nobody there to translate to the Japanese. And I was like, why? I was like, Fumi Saito ain't going to be there? Like, he's the Dave Meltzer of Japan, and Fumi's a great guy. So I went down there, and I loved, like, the talk that I had with Dave, because as he was leaving, he's, like, limping. He had done something to his leg. And he goes, Tony, seriously. He goes, thanks for everything, man. He goes, oh, no, really, I appreciate you. I go, Dave, I have no reason to kiss your fucking... I said, I have no reason to suck your dick. You knock me because I need to be knocked. Because when I get lazy or I get injured or I don't get off my ass and do something, thank you for kicking me in the balls and at least admitting to me, dude, you need new gear. You look like shit. Like, I don't get that enough. I get people out of anger and frustration that'll lash out at me. Or I still get... well, my cyclist stalker, he laid off, but the one of them that would like go into all this shit about my kids and like clearly you have my life very well scouted. Congratulations, but
yeah, a stalker.
Yeah, can you imagine somebody hating your guts bad enough to take that kind of time? And
Crazy.
Even if it's one of my friends now that did it, it's like, you know what? Hats off to you for fucking, taking your best shot at me because I'm still standing.
Right.
Like
weird people.
The way that everybody's gauge of success is different, but it's I guess how you handle it. I know you yourself personally. Like Sam, you have your daily thing, you have your daily struggles, you have your challenges.
Right.
But it's like the way that I kind of figured things out, and the way I kind of feel is like, the only reason that you were given your life and your hardships and to put up with the crap you've had to put up with, it is because, like, you are the only human being, you, Sam, that is tough enough to handle it.
Right. Everything happens for a reason. Right.
It's just, I don't know, maybe it's just the way that I view things, because I look at other people's situations and I go, how the hell do they keep it together after that? Because I've never thought about suicide, but that would be one of those things. I don't know if I could live with myself.
Right. Oh, I believe, yeah. It's crazy.
People hurt worse elsewhere. A lot more people hurt a lot worse.
Yeah, I'm worse off.
Yeah.
Let's
I mean, like.
Go ahead.
No, one little tidbit on the story about the car. And I told the cop, and then I said to the one cop, and like I was very dignified when I spoke. Right. It was like, every word I'm telling you is the truth. This is ridiculous, But the one cop, I go, I'm not saying to search her vehicle or something. I'm just saying wherever she needs to go, get her there and get her on her meds. And when I said that, I was like, and then I looked at the other cop and. Now, I glanced back at the other one. The other one was going. He just started. He wasn't trying to laugh, and I was like, "Oh man, this guy." Right. But it was. I had to throw that part in there because I think about it now, and it makes me laugh. The car looks fantastic. They fixed it all up.
Nice. Let's
The
finish
insurance
this off.
company. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just
interrupted.
gonna say let's because I have about 15 minutes left before this thing shuts off on me. So let's finish
Oh no, I
this
haven't
off.
shut up.
Let's because I wanted to do Action Park before you go.
Oh,
first
Jesus.
of all, what the heck is HBO Max? Because I don't have it. I can't find it. Don't tell me that's an app.
I don't know. What happened was I bought one of those terabytes, and now people send me stuff in Google Drive, and I send it back to them.
Oh, that's how you watched it?
Yeah. And so a friend of mine sent me the file, and I was like, all right, now I don't have to deal with signing up for this, doing that, blah, blah, give us your password, blah, blah, blah. So I looked at the documentary, and I go, they left the part out about how everybody that went there, everyone went to Action Park. Everyone that went there in the Jersey area, we were a bunch of losers. We were a bunch of scumbags. We didn't have the money saved to go to a real place like fucking Great Adventure. We were paying $15 or $20. We knew all the rides were busted, fucked up, and shit. You know, it's just like I started in the 5th grade. I went with my brother's 5 years older than me. So I went with him and all his pothead buddies. And then, you know, that's
not
me.
to cut you off, but just for the people who don't know this, because I don't even know this, and I'm from Long Island, you're from New Jersey. Was this only in New Jersey, this place, Action Park? I remember the commercials for it.
Yeah,
okay,
and
there's
it was
already,
you already had the ski resort there. You already had, you know, everybody that was a skier went to Vernon Valley. Everybody that skied, or even if you're a snowboarder that was just barely coming into, so that's what we did. We would save the money, and it was closer from my house. So, like, when you have a teenage brother, you know, I mean, teenage dirtbag, it wasn't so bad when you were a goofy kid in the 80s, you know? Like, that's how we grew up, you know? One time my brother started hanging out with a bunch of punks, and my mom screamed at him because he got his head shaved in a mohawk. Like, that's what I grew up for, you know, for an older brother with and shit. So, you would go there instead of spending the $40 for a real water park, and all your friends are like, yo, you could just do whatever the hell you want. They got these pothead, drunken, like, underage people there running the rides. Like, just, man, I ripped the skin off of the side of my knee.
Jeez.
You know, because I jumped too close to the friggin', when I jumped off the cliff. And I also skinned my elbow so bad. I never had such, like, burning in my life when I was going down the Alpine slide, because it would go too fast.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Like I said, I've known about it from when I was a kid and everything. I obviously never went there, but I do remember the commercials, because, you know, a lot of the channels that play throughout the tri-state area, you know, are New Jersey channels, and vice versa. I'm sure you get a lot of New York commercials over there. But I was just, like, reading a little bit on like the Wikipedia about it, and like you just said, it was basically it was run by teenagers who were pretty much running the show, and there was alcohol everywhere, and the rides weren't safe. And is it true, though? The thing that stuck out, is it true that, like, there was blood everywhere? Like, there was, like, dry. I read this thing that said that, like, when you walked in, you know, you would see, like, blood on, like, the gates and stuff. Is that true? I guess if everybody's getting injured, right?
Yeah, I mean, to that extent, it wasn't really true. It wasn't like,
it says right here.
I saw the movie.
Gates.
What the hell was it? Johnny Knoxville made a movie about it. They avoided the name Action Park because they didn't want. I think it was called, like, oh God, I forgot. But I watched that movie a bunch of times. I don't even know the name of it. Anyway, they tried to make it like it was, like, really sleazy. It wasn't. It was like, it was part of Vernon Valley Great Gorge ski resort, which was, like, upscale. I mean, only the more wealthy people went skiing, and that's how I grew up. I grew up skiing everywhere. I skied Chamonix, France, when I was in freshman in high school. Like, I got to do that because my dad was a crazy avid skier. And then my brother made the alternate at Ski Olympics in 1992. So, you know, it was at that establishment. So we just thought, Vernon Valley Great Gorge, hey, man, you know, I fucked myself up skiing. you know, you're going to get some dings and dents, but in certain places you would look up on the hill, and that's where you would see the kids smoking weed and, I mean, couples fucking, you know, it was just, that part was insane. I remember that.
They were having sex there too at Action Park? I guess
oh,
so.
yeah.
They're all young teenagers, right?
Man, there was so many 14, 15-year-old kids that would go there, and I'm like a little dude in the 5th, 6th grade just showing up there looking at that, and I'm like, whoa, man, this is wild. Like, the funny thing was I screwed up my knee, like I scraped so much skin off it, and then when I went back to school the following, you know, that fall, I told everyone that, and everyone's like, man, you know, even though I was a high school loser, they were like, where were you, man? We could have found you. And I'm like, tell me that place isn't awesome. And they're like, man, it's a party. You can do whatever you want.
Right.
But, no, the things with, like, the abrasions and scrapes, they would stick them in, like, I thought it was like a bigger, I guess because I was little, it seemed bigger, but they would stick them in, like, a little infirmary that they had built. And it was like, you know, you'd see people coming out of there, like, fucked up, and you're like, he got hurt. You know, you're just a carefree kid. You're like, that guy busted his face. What an idiot. And, like, you know, if you were talking with any older kids, because you remember, if any kid was older than you, like 4 or 5 years older, and you were like a 10-year-old dude, that was like an adult.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So when they would make fun of the kids that got hurt, you were like, yeah, stupid. Now I get to get on this ride faster because you're not going to be in the way.
Right.
You know, you're just a little dude. You didn't care about anything but, you know, yourself.
The one thing that I don't even want to say, like, I'm surprised because, I mean, deaths are deaths, but they're only listing 6 fatalities throughout the whole course of it being open. I would have thought it would be a lot more. Now, obviously, there's supposedly a lot of injuries.
Oh, the injuries were insane.
Well, that's kind of what they're pointing at. It's not that because when you look at the 6 of them, it looks like 3 or 4 of them are drownings, which, you know, you can kind of understand. I mean, if people are all drugged out and drunk and they're going on these rides, they're going to, of course, fall into the water. And if nobody goes and gets them, you know, they're going to drown.
When I scraped and destroyed my knee, that's when they relaunched the park. And
they changed the name of it.
No. Yep. Yeah, they had to change it to like Mountain Rolling or something like that.
Mountain Creek Ski Area.
Mountain
Creek.
No,
I'm sorry. What did they call it here? Action Mountain. I'm not even sure if I'm reading that.
No,
right,
it wasn't. It didn't have action in it because they knew how many people were making fun of the whole traction thing. And, like, the employees there would even hate that brought up to them because they hear it 700 times a day. But, you know, if you remember, like, Crazy Eddie and stuff like that. Like,
love Crazy Eddie.
Yeah. I mean, they would have tickets to Action Park or discount tickets there. So they obviously had some
probably where I heard the name Action Park so much was probably Crazy Eddie.
Yeah.
Commercials.
Not the guy that,
on
you know, the real Crazy Eddie was a crook. He took off with all the money.
Oh, yeah. I remember reading that in the documentary.
Yeah.
The 2 radio voices, as far as commercials go, that I remember growing up and just being fascinated by was Crazy Eddie and Carvel. Tom Carvel, the ice cream.
Oh, yeah.
This gravelly voice. He just died like last 2 weeks ago.
Don't you remember those old commercials? Oh, Carvel ice cream. Oh, come on down. Ice cream is yeah, it was like you knew that it was like an 800-pound slob. Like,
yeah,
you know, Carvel was.
Oh man,
there's so much you can get into.
I haven't had it in about 10 years, but it's delicious.
I want to say
Carvel ice cream.
Here we could put it in a big wraparound. Between the Twilight Zone and growing up in the 80s, there are so many things that people don't talk about. Like, the littlest things about Jersey. Man, we were within rock and throwing distance. My parents would go into the city almost every weekend to buy something, you know, or we would just shop around. We'd wind up in Coney Island, wind up in Yonkers, Queens, you know, because that's what you did as a family. You would go out to these, you know, I realize now looking back, I grew up very, you know, upper middle class. I didn't realize that because my dad worked 3 jobs around the clock because he was dirt poor and he, wasn't born in this country. So it was like, between him and my mom, as poor as they were, starting out in a place like Irvington, holy shit. They got to do all this cool stuff in the 80s with their kids. And
right. Now
shit.
it's all gone now. I mean, the stores just from the 90s are gone. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, everything is, you buy everything online now, and you don't even hear like people saying that they're going to a mall or anything. I mean, a lot of the malls are gone now, but it's a whole different world now. Everything is gone. Everything is mobile. If you want something, you just pick up your phone and buy it, or you buy food, go, order sneakers, from Amazon. You don't go anywhere anymore. I don't know how it would be these days to be a kid. I don't know. It's got to be a little boring. I guess you sit home and you play video games and surf the web all day and night. But now with COVID-19, it's even hard to date. I'm glad it didn't happen when we were young. You don't even want to meet someone now, and you don't even want to go near someone new that you don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like she'll come on over and I'll hang on to her for a while, and then I'm like, you got to get back to doing your thing, lady.
Yeah.
Like, man, 5 ex-wives. I go, there's no woman. I'm explaining this to her the other night. I go, there's no woman in her right damn mind that's going to put up with a man floating back and forth to Japan. He's
That's
a
rough.
grandfather. Yeah, it's like,
just
and then,
not the grandfather part. I'm talking about like leaving for like 6 months. I mean, that's like, what do you want to call it? That's big time long distance right there.
Yeah.
Long distance alone is hard if you live like in a borough like Queens and Long Island or something like that. That's almost like impossible.
The ex-wife was so vindictive that she went to all those Japanese outlets and, basically buried me and said that, I was this selfish guy. And I was like, well, think about this. I spent, 5-6 months straight with you over in Japan. I stayed in an apartment by myself instead of being, with my roommate, who was like the coolest guy ever. And the lady that I got the house from, it was like 70 now and one of my best buddies. I call her my Japanese mom,
right.
Mama Ito. And man, do I miss Ito Mama so bad. But like, I didn't think it was fair that, 1, that she did that. 2, I told her, I go, you were in America for 3 weeks and you got sick of it and you left right when I went to work. And it's like, man, everything in the world was right there. My daughter was taking her shopping each day. I go, forget it. And my kid was like, don't you go running back to her. She was like, what a wingding. She was like, what the hell? And I was like, for once in my life, I thought, I won't do this solely based on looks, and and I guess my kid is my worst critic. She was like, you need to stop chasing mom. Like she's dead and buried, and even I'm over that, And she's like, just
replacement. Yeah, I got you.
She was like, you're still here. Why don't you just, Anyway, it's one of those things where even with her growing up, I would take her everywhere. And that just slowly faded. Not because she was a teenager. She was always cool about being seen in public with me. Because I guess I look like an older brother or something.
Right.
I don't know. With the piercings and 3 feet of hair on my head,
Right.
But yeah, it's weird how all it fades away. I just wish to God that, I hope today at least, that the kids growing up are content with this, that they look back at this and have good memories, because our memories were fantastic.
Yeah.
Action Park, man, that was the summer, when you were too much of an idiot to not be able to go to the shore every day, with the rest of your friends, or, snake your way into the rental property that their parents rented for the summer,
Right. I'll tell you a quick story before we end this, because like I said, it's getting ready to shut off in about 5 minutes anyway. But
yeah, I rambled too much. I didn't shut up.
Nah, it was good. It was great. It's always great. It's always a lot of fun. But 1994, I was a young man back then. 1994, what was I, about 20? No, I was like 19 years old back then. And
holy cow, we're the exact same age.
Yeah, this girl who I was chasing all throughout high school, I finally started going out with, and she wanted to go to Great Adventure. And, I'm on Long Island. I'm in the middle of Long Island, so it's not like I'm like by Queens or anything. I'm like all the way, almost East Long Island, and she was too. So, make a long story short, it was October, the middle of October, I would say, and it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday. We got up at like 6 o'clock in the morning. I had like a Hyundai not an Accent, Excel. I don't know if you know about the Hyundai Excel.
I remember those.
It had no pickup. It was very weak.
Oh, boy.
So I spent hours driving there in the morning, like 6 in the morning we left or something like that, and this thing is barely getting over the Verrazano Bridge because it has no pickup and it's going uphill. We get all the way there, and that motherfucker's closed because it was Fright. What do they call that? Fright Fest or something?
Oh, no.
Only opened on the weekend. What a waste of a day. I drove all the way there and I had to drive all the way back, and that shit was closed because before the internet and everything, I just figured it's open. It's open for the summer. It's not closed yet. Little did I know that they cut the hours down to like Friday, Saturday, Sunday back then. I don't know what they do now. I mean, I don't go there. I haven't been there since then, but man, that was like the movie Vacation. Remember when they went all the way to the theme park?
I was gonna say, did you? Did I get out that part? Wait, did I get out that part where I asked you if Clark W. Griswolded it? Because
I didn't do that. No.
Oh man, I could see.
We were just like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me! And it's nothing. When you're from Long Island and you're going all the way to New Jersey, it's not like there's alternate. I'm sure there was other stuff, but we don't know where any of this is. It's 1994. I have a map in my hand to get there. It's not like, I have a phone. So it's not like we could start just traveling around. At that point, it was like, just turn this freaking car around. Let's get back to Long Island and salvage, the night, because the day was fucked. It was a disaster that day. That was like one of the worst days of my life. It was a mess. It was my fault, but it was like, damn. But yeah, it was Vacation, basically, the movie. That was one of the few times that I went there to New Jersey, and it was a bad day. I've had good days in New Jersey too, where I went to
and then you had to pay all the tunnel.
What's that?
You had the tunnel fee. You had all that. Oh my God, man.
Yeah, it was just a long day. It was like it took a couple hours to get there. And I think we ate somewhere, and then a couple hours to get back. By the time you get back, and now we're driving midday, trying to get back to Long Island. We're hitting all kinds of traffic. You didn't get back to like 4 o'clock from 6 o'clock in the morning or something like that, or 3 o'clock. It was terrible. But we had some good times going to New Jersey too. The same girl. I mean, went to Bally's Atlantic City. I think Bally's Atlantic City once or twice. I think 2 or 3 times. So. I don't know. How is Atlantic City over there now? Is it kind of barren? I would think it's completely shut down, right?
Yeah, I told you I tried to stop at the Jersey Shore the one day, and I told you about that. It was just kind of like, I'm not going here. Like these people
you just don't want to go there right now.
Yeah, and like buddies of mine tried to have a good time and they're like, dude, the casino's like a ghost town. People are just kind of miserable, and I'm like, I don't need to be a part of that. You know what I mean? I don't want to be so let down. You've seen some of the pictures of me in Japan, man. I mean, I love the nightclubs. I love dancing still. I love acting a fool. That's me. And if I can't be in that environment, man, forget trying to. It's too manufactured. If you try doing that at a house or by, with a group of friends, it's just falls so short.
Yeah. Well, let's end it here before we get cut off. We're gonna do that Twilight Zone one though. I want to do that one where we. Now
I'm gonna compile a top. Yeah, now I'm gonna compile a top
like
15.
10 to 15 of your favorite ones, and even like even compile like a small list of the ones you didn't like too, and we'll look at those as well. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. Oh boy, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I don't know when I'm gonna be on next, but. Now I'm going to start compiling and making notes.
Very soon. With it,
I'm that into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, in 2 weeks we're going to do it. We're going to knock it out in like 2 weeks.
Oh man, phenomenal, man! I'll be the first one there, front row and center. I'm looking forward to it. Probably a lot more than you are, but you got a bunch of people to talk to. So.
I love Twilight Zone. I love
I
talking.
can't get
There's not too
enough.
many people you can go back and forth with about the Twilight Zone.
I'll never get enough. I'll never stop talking about it. There's so much more detail I could have went into earlier, but I'm like, no, man, there's a whole show to do. Like, just shut up. And I saw the writing on the wall there. So.
Well, we needed to save it anyway for that show, but it's always a pleasure having you on, Tony. And we'll talk in 2 weeks. We'll do the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, the least I got the least I could do, the least I should do, is ever phone it in with you, so to speak. Give you everything that's on my mind and got a whole lot off my chest. And man, I don't think I'll ever repay you in this lifetime to give me such a good platform. The feedback I get is unbelievable. It's like,
great.
So other podcasts have tried, but I know what's in my heart. You know what I mean?
You gotta have the connection. Some of these podcasts. I think we even talked about this once a couple of shows ago. It's like some of these people, like they don't even know who they're interviewing. Sometimes it's crazy. I mean, I've had people. Don't get me wrong. I've had people on where I didn't know everything about them, but I knew. You got to do a little bit of your homework and know them.
Yeah, I would think
at least know a little bit about it. You can't just go on there and just like fake it. And that's
it's
what
almost
a lot
like
of
I would
podcasts do.
It's almost like I would be more interesting if I lied about so much more stuff, but or I lied about anything at all. But I wouldn't know how to cover that lie, or I wouldn't know what I lied about.
Worth it. It's not worth
no, but you know what I mean, right? Like you almost every interview you hear with somebody, you're like, oh my god, like not every, but so many, you're like, oh my god, does this idiot really believe this? No, I was there.
Right.
That's not what happened. So. But yeah, I can't thank you enough in this lifetime for giving me the platform and just being good people like that, man. You need a friend, you need someone to talk to also.
Absolutely,
all that great stuff. Yeah,
we're going to be doing this for a long time. I'm not going anywhere. So
yeah,
as always,
me neither.
As always, Tony, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for coming on, and we'll hit up that Twilight Zone one in 2 weeks. Thank you.
It's going to be too much fun, man. Thank you so much again for everything, all right?
No problem. Talk soon, Tony.
All right, man.
Everyone gets offended at everything these days. So in advance, we are not sorry.
Armcast, Dead Sexy Podcasts. I'm your host, Armand Rosamilia. Fridays exclusively on Project Entertainment Network, where I interview authors, publishers, editors, artists, filmmakers, narrators, the lady from Walmart, whoever I feel like talking to. That's every Friday, Armcast, right here on Project Entertainment Network.
The host of Just Jets podcast and one of the greats at breaking down what's going on in baseball and the Mets, of course, Matt O'Leary. I'm doing good, thank you. Always a pleasure having you on. Been looking forward to talking a little Mets, a little baseball with you. Before we even get to that, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong. Did I see something about the radio station that you were at Five Towns College? Are they shutting down, or are they just shutting like a portion of something down over there?
No, we're all good we're all good where I am. That's where I'm heading from now. Actually, it was our first day of classes at the school today, so we're actually all good. I posted today about another Long Island venue, Revolution, shutting down.
Okay. I was confused about that. I thought it was the one. I got you now. Okay. All right. So yeah. So first of all, I want to congratulate you on the big moves that you've made. I mean, it's been a couple of weeks since we talked. I know that you have the Manscaped, you're supported by Manscaped. You have the YouTube channel doing great. And you're on Patreon now as well, right?
Yeah, I'm on Patreon, patreon.com/Matt O'Leary NY. So I was just kind of looking to, expand what I'm doing a little bit. And, if for the subscription there's different levels, whether it be, $10 a month, $15, it goes up from there. But Basically what I'm doing is pregame live streams, Q&A sessions, articles, podcasts, and stuff like that. So, I'm just trying to grow this thing as much as I can, and I know, you've been here supporting for a long time, so, I really appreciate that, of course, and, I'm just trying to grow this thing, that's all.
Absolutely. You can't. There's so many people with Patreon right now. It's almost like if you don't have one of those, it's almost like a missed opportunity. At least try it, right? I mean, you don't know what's going to happen with it, but it doesn't hurt to try.
Right, absolutely. I don't care. I don't care if there's 5 people on there or 50.
Right.
I'll